Api Sachiputram Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajam Urupurim Maturim Gostavitam Radhakundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Tosmi Jai Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Gosvāmī Maharaj Ki Jai. So Jai Hare Krishna Jai Gurudev. So reading from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya-līlā chapter 2. Madhya-līlā chapter 2, where Kavirāja Gosvāmī is giving a synopsis of Mahaprabhu's ecstatic pastimes of the Madhya-līlā. So it goes into the Mahaprabhu's ecstatic displays of Srimati Radharani's Mahabhav. The sentiment, the loving sentiment of Srimati Radharani, but in Vipralamba Bhav, separation, union and separation. I was reading about it in the golden volcano of divine love yesterday at the yoga fair. We had a book table at the yoga fair, and during the quiet periods I'd dip into the books. Golden volcano of divine love, which Param Gurudev said of all the books that was his favorite book, describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, and also the second part, of course, is his Shikshastakam. So he talks about the separation. Say the highest form of ecstasy is connection with Krishna, and the highest form of pain, separation. But the pain of separation is more intense than the pleasure of ecstasy. But it's not pain as we know it today in this world. I think externally it's pain. It's hot like lava, like the lava that spews out of an erupting volcano. But it's not injurious like lava. So in our comprehension, it's paradoxical. How can something be of so exquisitely painful, but deep down, internally, its essence is pleasure-giving? So that's the Vipralamba Bhav that Mahaprabhu is tasting. Described here in chapter 2 of Madhya-līlā by Kavirāja Gosvāmī. He describes it here. Now, why, you might ask, why is he saying it? Why is he describing it in Madhya-līlā? Madhya-līlā chapter 1 is, actually we could say, the Adi-līlā, the beginning of his life, is up until his sannyas point, 24 years old. So then, at the beginning of the next section, Madhya-līlā, the middle pastimes, why is Kavirāja Gosvāmī suddenly describing the final pastimes of the Gambhīra? Mahaprabhu is living in this room called the Gambhīra. It's like a garden house. And exhibiting this Vipralamba Bhav, this ecstasy of union and separation. Separation, but inside the separation there is some amount of union. Because, as has been mentioned before, the author, Kṛṣṇadāsa Kavirāja, was concerned that he would not live long enough to finish the work. He had a very real worry that he would pass away before completing the Caitanya-caritāmṛta. So when he'd finished the Adi-līlā, the first portion of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he wrote down a condensed version of the final Antya-līlā, end pastimes of Mahaprabhu, just for record's sake, for posterity's sake. So if he passed away, there would be at least a synopsis of this Vipralamba Bhav of Mahaprabhu's final pastimes there for posterity, for people, recorded for people in the future to cherish. So, as a result of this, we get chapter 2 of Madhya-līlā. This was Kavirāja Gosvāmī's. He wrote chapter 2 at this time. And of course, he did indeed live long enough to finish the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the Madhya-līlā and the Antya-līlā. Have it published. Well, they didn't really have publishing houses in those days, but have the final product written and distributed amongst the devotees. But this seems chronologically out of place, and it is in the context of the whole book. So we can understand it by the fact that he did worry about his health, about his ability to finish the book in time, and so he put the important bits down. And Madhya-līlā chapter 2 is probably the most poignant example of that. So we will continue from text 53, Madhya-līlā chapter 2, text 53, Jai Jai, Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Ye kale deke Jagannatha, Sri Rama Subhadra Sata, Tabe jane ailama Kurukshetra, Safala haila jivana, Dekilun padma lochan, Judaila tanu mananetra. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath along with Balaram and Subhadra, he would immediately think that he had reached Kurukshetra, where all of them had come. He would think that his whole life was successful because he had seen the lotus-eyed one, whom, if seen, pacifies the body, mind, and eyes. So the Leela of Mahaprabhu viewing, saw Jagannath as Krishna, at Kurukshetra. This has been pointed out, or say, Param Gurudev Śrīdhar Maharaj, he says that Bhaktivinoda Thakur identifies Jagannath Puri with Kurukshetra. In this verse we see that Mahaprabhu sees, envisions Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev as if they had reached Kurukshetra. No, as if Mahaprabhu had reached Kurukshetra, where all of them were. So they're both there. And why Kurukshetra? Because we know, most of us are familiar with this, that solar eclipse, people go to Kurukshetra at the time of the solar eclipse. It's a holy site. So when Krishna left the cowherd, his cowherd pastimes, his Braja pastimes, and began his royal pastimes. Krishna was born in a Kshatriya family. Vasudeva and Devaki were of the Kshatriya caste. But of course we know he was smuggled out in the middle of the night. Krishna was born in a prison in Mathura, but he was smuggled out by his father in the middle of the night and taken to a non-Kshatriya location. These people were Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, were of the Vaishya caste, cowherd people. They would keep cows and they would move from place to place with their cows, looking for nice pastures in the greater Braja area. So Krishna was smuggled out and deposited with Vasudeva, with Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So although born in the Kshatriya lineage, he grew up in a Vaishya environment. But then in his teenage years, he leaves Vrindavan. He goes and he kills Kamsa and reclaims his Kshatriya heritage. And then we see later the Dwaka-līlā is manifest. This is all Kshatriya. So as a king, as a Kshatriya king, with his entourage and his queens and his paraphernalia, all the wealth and trappings of a powerful Kshatriya, he comes to Kurukshetra to observe the solar eclipse. Also there are the Vaishyas. Now these are not necessarily particularly wealthy Vaishyas. Maybe they are, but simple. The forest country girls, Srimati Radharani and her friends. The country girls are there. And their old lover, Krishna, from before is there, but he is completely changed now. He has become like a superstar, and they are still the simple village girls. He is a big heroic king with attendants and fans and soldiers and entourage and ostentation. And here they are, these simple village girls, dressed in their simple clothes, with their simple mannerisms and behaviors. And they see Krishna, and he is the same Krishna. They recognize him, of course, the same Krishna, but different at the same time. So this is the essence of Mahaprabhu's vision of Jagannath, which comes to its pinnacle at the time of the Rath Yatra, and which was expressed somewhat cryptically by Mahaprabhu, whose cryptic expression was able to be interpreted by very few, including Rupa Gosvāmī, who wrote it down in verse. And that verse will be discussed in the beginning of the Madhya-līlā. But that is the essence of Jagannath, the mood of Jagannath Puri, which Thakur Bhaktivinoda identified. Thakur Bhaktivinoda identifies this, Kurukshetra with Jagannath Puri. And then Saraswati Thakur went further to say that the Vaishnavas think that living in, some think that living in Vrindavan is for the highest Vaishnavas, but actually the highest Vaishnavas, they live in Kurukshetra. Because Kurukshetra exhibits this mood of union and separation, where the gopis, they meet Krishna. So there is a meeting, there is union, but there's also separation, because it's not the same Krishna. They're wanting to take Krishna and pull him, drag him back to Vrindavan. So that's the inner purport of the Rath Yatra festival, where the gopis see Krishna at Kurukshetra and they're wanting to drag him back to Vrindavan. So pulling the Rath cart from Kurukshetra, which is also representative somewhat of Dwaka, because Krishna is in his Dwaka Aishwarya type of position. So pulling Krishna back to Vrindavan, which is represented by the Gundicha temple. So this is Mahaprabhu's bhav at this time. Not just confined to Rath Yatra, although it reaches its greatest exhibition at Rath Yatra, but also expressed here. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath along with Balaram and Subhadra, he would immediately think that he had reached Kurukshetra, where all of them had come. He would think of his life. He would think that his life was successful because he had seen the lotus-eyed one, whom, if seen, pacifies the body, mind, and eyes. Interestingly, Saraswati Thakur's first posting of Param Gurudev Śrīdhar Maharaj was to Kurukshetra. He was the one who went and started the Kurukshetra Math for Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Garudera sanidhani rahi kari darashani se anandera ki kahi babale Garuda stambera tale, ache eka nimna kale, se kala bharila ashrujale. Staying near the Garuda Stamba, the Lord would look upon Lord Jagannath. What can be said about the strength of that love? On the ground, beneath the column of the Garuda Stamba, was a deep ditch, and that ditch was filled with the water of his tears. Purport: in front of the temple of Jagannath is a column on which the statue of Garuda is situated. It is called the Garuda Stamba. Behind that column is a ditch, and that ditch was filled with the tears of the Lord. Tahan hai te gare ashi, matira upare vashi, nakke kare prithvi likana, haha kahan brindavana, kahan gopendra nandana, kahan se vamsi vadana. When coming from the Jagannath temple to return to his house, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sit on the ground and mark it with his nails. At such times, he would be greatly morose and would cry, "Alas, where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna, the son of the king of the cowherd men? Where is the person who plays the flute? Kahan se Tribanga Tama, kahan se Venugana, kahan se Yamuna Pulina, kahan se Rasa Vilasa, kahan Ritya Gita Hasa, kahan Prabhu Madana Mohana." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to lament by saying, "Where is Sri Krishna, whose form is curved in 3 places? Where is the sweet song of his flute? And where is the bank of the Yamuna? Where is the rasa dance? Where is that dancing, singing and laughing? Where is my Lord, Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid?"
I'm just thinking about something. So when Krishna came to display his pastimes 5,000 years ago, so that meeting happened in Kurukshetra, the location, right? But then this pastime of the chariots is happening in Puri.
Yeah.
It's interesting to that started quite a long time ago, isn't it?
Well,
I want to know why did it started there and not
in Kurukshetra.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Well, it's like, spiritual phenomenon is not governed by geographical location. So it's like Navadvip is also Vrindavan. It's Gupta Vrindavan. You say, how can Navadvip be Vrindavan? Vrindavan is in UP or whatever. Navadvip is in West Bengal. So spiritual phenomenon is not governed at all by material time and space. It can manifest, it's independent. What's the word for independent? Svatantra. It can manifest however and wherever it so chooses. And generally it manifests according to the desire of the devotee. So Mahaprabhu is exhibiting as the greatest devotee. It's through his vision or his mood and bhav that Jagannath Puri is realized in this way. Before that time, such an appreciation of the significance of Jagannath Puri was not understood. The Jagannath deity has been worshipped since ancient times, but various worshippers have seen Jagannath according to relative vision. Some see Jagannath as Vishnu. Jagannath has been worshipped in different conceptions, with different conceptions.
I don't think that even those pandas, they understand the full meaning of what Mahaprabhu came to distribute, isn't it?
Possibly not. Some may. It may be an individual thing. Some may not. And Shankaracharya established one of his Padapitas, one of his Char Dhams in Puri. But of course his appreciation of Jagannath is very different to Gauranga Mahaprabhu's vision.
I have a question about whether the gopis love to pull Krishna back, whether it worked and he went back from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan by their desire to pull him back, or did it not happen, manifest that Leela?
Not at that time. But Mahaprabhu is exhibiting the mood of Srimati Radharani. Her feeling of desperately wanting to pull Krishna back to Vrindavan so that the sweet Madhya-līlā of Vrindavan can be resumed. So Mahaprabhu is reflecting that in Jagannath Puri, being saturated in the mood of mining the mood of culturing the mood of Srimati Radharani. So he's wanting to, seeing Jagannath as Krishna, to pull Jagannath back to Vrindavan. So in Jagannath Puri, it does happen. Krishna is pulled back to Vrindavan. But at Kurukshetra, it doesn't happen. You see, Krishna stays when, he doesn't return to Vrindavan after leaving. He never returns. He sends his messenger, Uddhava, and we know the gopis' kind of pathetic communications, like hopeless communications with Uddhava, given in the Bhagavatam. But Krishna never returns to Vrindavan. That is the external position. Internally, we say Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So when asked these questions, Gurudev would say, both are true, but it's paradoxical, so it's achintya. Gurudev was not shy to say that a lot of these topics are achintya. So two, which to our rational calculations, two seemingly impossible, contradictory scenarios, both can be applicable. Both are true. They can coexist in that world. They can't. They're mutually contradictory in this world. We measure things according to our rational understanding of laws as what is possible and what is not possible. One thing is not possible to coexist with another. It cancels it out. How can Krishna never leave? If Krishna never left Vrindavan, then why are the gopis trying to drag him back to Vrindavan? So that is, Gurudev would say, achintya. It cannot be understood rationally. But both are possible in a place which is infinite by character. Infinite means nothing's impossible. We say impossible in this world, but in an infinite world nothing is impossible. So both must be possible. It's achintya here to us. But such is the nature of that realm. It's not governed by the limitations, the paradoxes of this world. It's free. Leela can express itself in ways that are inconceivable in this world. It's all to plumb the depths of the ecstasy available, different shades and flavors and variations. So although Krishna may never leave Vrindavan, at the same time, if he was not to leave Vrindavan, how would the union and separation, the Vipralambha Bhav, be experienced and expressed? Which is the essence of Mahaprabhu's descent, to taste the intense love of Srimati Radharani in separation, union and separation.
And just to finish also, with the logical, rational mind, it can appear cruel that Krishna is punishing the gopis and testing their limits and really not fulfilling their wishes. So how can we reframe that with our mundane, gross, logical, rational mind?
Well, as Param Gurudev Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj has explained, externally the separation appears, it's like lava. It's very, very lava will burn. But Guru Maharaj says, Param Gurudev says, it does not burn. It's not injurious like lava. It's powerful. It's hot. But it does not kill. It has a special taste. So inside of that is intense happiness. On one level it may be cruel, may appear that way. But on a deeper level, it is a rasa of such intense, such profound intensity that it can only be experienced inside a casing of separation. Such an intensity of feeling cannot be experienced in direct sambhog, union. It can only be found in separation. So the intensity of love and emotion that comes, is brought out as a result of separation, is superior to that which is found in union. And thus it's seen that Mahaprabhu's exhibition, Mahaprabhu's tasting, what Mahaprabhu is tasting, is seen as the most powerful sentiment that can be expressed between the Lord and a devotee. The highest devotee, of course, Srimati Radharani. So the very pinnacle of emotion, feeling, that can be experienced by any person in relation to the Supreme Person. Say it's in the Krishna conception, but what is the highest ecstasy in that? That is the union and separation experienced by Mahaprabhu. He is taking a deep dive into Srimati Radharani's emotions, into her heart. And she, being the personification of Mahabhav, of Prem, loving emotion, he's not taking a deep dive, he's plundering all of that emotional resource, everything, and tasting the very essence, the very pinnacle of it. And it's being expressed in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Jai Shri Chaitanya. And so that very essence, the very core of the Mahabhav, her Mahabhav, is shown, tasted in the Vipralambha context, union and separation. So it does appear cruel, but again, it's not cruel by any calculation or definition of what cruel is in this world. the whole phenomenon is so anti-material, it's so intrinsically spiritual, anti-material, that to try and use material devices such as our brains or our experience of life in this world to make sense of it is actually quite difficult. You can't do it. It can only be made sense of through revelation. Revelation means something comes from a higher place to a lower place. If you're trying to make sense of it using whatever faculties you have at your disposal here, limited faculties, you won't be able to properly understand it. But through revelation, if it chooses to reveal itself, it can. It's not that because our limited faculties cannot assess it based on our own strengths and endeavors that it cannot, that they block revelation. The revelation is blocked through lack of submission. In fact, when those faculties which we use, rational faculties which we may try and use, which most people would use to dismiss such concepts, oh no, it's phantasmagoria. That can't happen. It's contradictory to the laws of physics in this world, or it's contradictory to common sense or whatever. When those faculties which we use so much to make sense of the world here, when we surrender those, then we make room for revelation. You've given up, you've removed the blocks, you've given up trying to assess and dissect and understand that world using material instrumentation. When you give up that attempt and instead you submit to that, then that is the first step, of course, in inviting that world then to come and descend into this world. And that is that revelatory process is the only way in which it can be understood, and it completely bypasses all material faculty, completely bypasses the mind, the intellect. It goes straight to the Atma. So on that level, it's only on that level in which it can be understood. Now when I say understood, it means it's experienced. There is no intellectual comprehension, it's pure conscious experience. And of course that experience, whatever that triggers, may be expressed in the mind and the body, as we can see here in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, like symptoms of spiritual emotion that are expressed by Mahaprabhu and the devotees, that is felt on the level of the deepest fundamental level, pure of the Atma, but it's also expressed in the mind and the body. But it's not gained as a result of attempt of the intellect or the mind or the body. It is coming and it's directly hitting the Atma, and then it's coming out. It affects the deepest level of one's identity, the truest level, which is the Atma. As Rupa Gosvāmī says in his verse, glorifying the holy name, Tunde Tandavali Ritim, Tunde Tandavani Ritim, Bitanute Tundavali Labde, Kana Kroda Kadambani Gatayati, Karni Buddhi Pyaspriyam. You know that one? Chaitaha Prangana Sangani Vijayati, Savendriyanam Kritam, No Jani Taki Adviramritai Krishna Tivarnadvai. Conquers all the senses. When the holy name enters, say it enters through the ear, but really it touches the soul. And by touching the soul, Sarvendriyanam Kritam, Indriya means all the senses, the physical and the subtle. The mind, the mental body has its own set of senses. You can see it when we dream. They're more powerful than the physical senses. They correspond to all the physical senses, eyes, ears, nose, touch, etc. They're known as the Indriyas. So Sarvendriyanam Kritam, it conquers Sava, all of the senses are rendered completely, almost incapacitated. How can that happen? It can only happen if the holy name is touching on a level which is deeper and more profound than the level on which the senses exist. Subtle and gross senses. So it's touching the soul. It's touching the Atma, and that is only done through revelation. The higher domain, if it is attracted, how is it attracted? Through the assumption of a negative position, surrender, sharanagati. Then that positive energy is attracted and a revelatory process takes place. So on that level it's comprehended, but then it's entirely subjective. You may know it's true, you feel it's true, but others may not. They may still be struggling with their rational attempt to understand Līlā using the laws and the faculties that they have available, material faculties and laws, which of course is futile. It can never happen. So, when you say, is it cruel? Well, on one level, yes, but on a greater level, it is all part of evoking greater and greater depths of love. And in an infinite context, if the spiritual world is infinite, then that love is being evoked in ever greater and ever newer varieties. And it's all for the purpose of an expansion, a culture, a further plumbing of the depths, the infinite depths of that Līlā. So it is all healthy. So in the sense that anything negative or anything that is destructive in nature can exist, although it may be perceived as such from here. But again, we return to the same point. How we perceive. It's impossible to properly perceive it, to accurately perceive it, outside of it choosing to make itself known through a revelatory process. So yeah, it can seem cruel. But again, it is it's a achintya. It is achintya until it chooses to reveal itself. And then it's no longer achintya. Even, consider it this way, even on the level of the mind, that which in our rational waking state we say is impossible. Well, you go to bed, you go to sleep, and you have a dream, all sorts of things that are impossible on the purely physical, according to the laws of physics, they can seem, they can be, experienced as possible in the dream state. And you wake up and go, how the hell did that happen? That was bizarre. But in your subconscious mind, once the rational, the left brain is the rational, is it? Left brain, yeah. Once the left brain has been bypassed, we're just talking here about the level of the mind, and the subconscious right brain is in operation, then everything deemed impossible in the rational waking world suddenly no longer applies. It can become possible. You can see a pink elephant flying around or whatever, and there's no judgment of it. It's understood, it's comprehended. And that is just on a level not far removed from our conscious waking level on which we're making all of these judgments. So what to speak of an infinite level, which is under no confine, under no rules or limitations, which by definition infinite must not be under any restriction. We bypass during sleep the restriction of our rational brains. All sorts of things suddenly become possible. And that's just one level removed, not even close to the infinite level. We'll read a little bit from Loving Search for the Lost Servant by Śrīla Bhakti Rakshak Śrīdhar Gosvāmī Maharaj. Faith is the only means through which we can see, hear or feel the higher world. Otherwise it is all meaningless to us. To understand that plane, an inner awakenment is necessary. We can connect with the upper world only through a higher source. Therefore, divyam jnanam, knowledge of the higher plane, is not ordinary knowledge. It is transcendental, supramental feeling and sense. But to realize this, surrender is compulsory. After that, we may go on hearing and chanting, remembering and worshipping and praising the Lord, or rendering so many other kinds of service. But the first thing, the foundation of devotion, must be self-surrender. Otherwise nothing will be effected. Our show of devotion will all be imitation. I must sincerely feel, I shall be faithful in my service to the Supreme Lord. I am meant for Him. I am ready to die to live. I want to live for Him only, and not for fulfilling any separate interest. I want nothing less than the Absolute. I want to be His completely. This sort of intensity is an indispensable necessity for a devotee. A devotee has to conceive, to feel, that he is meant for Krishna. He is not an independent entity. He is dependent on Krishna, the highest absolute center, and nothing else. To identify with the interests of our family, society, or country is extended selfishness. But all false identification must be eliminated. We must be neither selfish nor entangled in extended selfishness. Rather, all sorts of foreign contamination must be eliminated from our conception of self. All outside demands must be cancelled. Then we shall feel in our innermost hearts that we are connected with the whole of the infinite, the Absolute. So somewhat relevant to the discussion, that once the coverings, selfish coverings, are dealt with, then it can leave room for, how is it expressed here? Then we shall feel in our innermost hearts that we are connected with the infinite, the Absolute. It's not so much as trying to understand that, but more removing that which prevents its natural flow, because it's ultimately it's not something that is generated or created. As Swāmī Maharaj Prabhupada used to say, it is not an artificial imposition on the mind. Because people would say, oh, you're just manufacturing something. You're creating something and giving it some mental power by all of this constant reading and thinking about it. You're creating it's a fantasy, but fantasies have power, right? There's mental energy. So you're manufacturing all of this. Prabhupada used to say, it's not an artificial imposition on the mind. So the point being that once you make room, then the natural, what is existing, what is eternal, what is actually true, will arrive of its own accord in time. Once the blocks, those coverings which prevent its arrival, once they have been removed, as Param Gurudev says here, is often characterized as selfishness, selfish interest. Not just purely one's physical body and mind, but also what one identifies more widely with oneself, beginning with oneself, then one's family, then one's maybe tribe, one's social group, then one's nation, etc. All of these, expanding circles of ego. Once all of that has been removed, then there can be room for descent of the spiritual substance, once the blocks have been removed. The real world can enter. All right. Should we finish there? Jai Śrīla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Gosvāmī Maharaja Ki Jai. You want to sing, Prabhu? You want to sing Hari Harai?
60.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshivaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshivaya.
Gopala Govindaram Śrīmada Sudhanaha.
Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Jai Vishnu Pāja Bhakti Rakha Śrīdhar Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Bhagavan Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhu Gadādhara ki jai. Śrī Rupa Guru Marg ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. Namaveda Vaishnava Mandala ki jai. Namaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Śrī Caitanya Saraswati Mat ki jai. Śrī Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Kartik Kartik ki jai. Gopinarandi ki jai.